Beef for you ain't got funds. Better gain the whole clique, my nigga live anything. Chain hang. I'm gang, so we back with another vid, man. Class in session, man. Y'all check how I'm coming though, bro. We got No Limit Chicago, Deadliest Gang. Now look, bro, y'all wanted part 2? We got part 2, you feel me? So we about to tap on that. What I need y'all to do, make sure y'all hit the like button, man. Y'all hit the like button. I don't ask y'all to hit the like button. I'm not on that shit, bro. If you come to the channel, you rock out with the channel, that's cool. If you don't, you don't, you know what I'm saying? But y'all run the likes up on this video, man. We ain't about to waste no time. We got part 2. We about to see what the fuck going on, you feel me? Let's get it. Class in session, baby.
With numerous small organisations breaking off, but retaining the P-Stone identity and remaining active in the streets and prisons of Chicago and America beyond. But eventually, a renegade set descending from the original P-Stones would emerge based in Chicago's east side. This group would eventually go by the name No Limit, with the name apparently signalling a heritage handed down from the Black P-Stones, but with no interest in following the rules or limits imposed by some of the more militant forefathers of the gang back in the day when it was a religious or political movement. The young orphans of Jeff Fort's fallen organisation would grow up and cultivate their own identities and feuds, which would get very deadly indeed. Violence would continue to play out all over Chicago, particularly one small area of territory in the east, which would eventually become so dangerous that it would earn itself the nickname Terratown. Today's story is most concerned with a 4-block by 4-block rectangle of territory bounded by Yates and Colfax Avenues between 75th and 79th Street. If you type Terratown into YouTube, you'll see numerous drive-thrus and drone shots depicting the rundown blocks of the area, which looks to be near abandoned by city authorities. And residents say that in these areas, murder is a common occurrence. In the 90s, after the incarceration of Jeff Fort, his son Antonio was one of many descendants of the original P-Stones who fought for control of this area, with the battles taking place on the streets there apparently being so deadly and terrifying that the area would eventually become known as Terratown. And naturally, with the infamy of his famous father, it wouldn't take long for Antonio Fort to find himself a target. In 1992, Antonio Fort would be jailed for conspiracy to purchase half a kilo of cocaine, and after his release, power struggles would continue in the area. Events would unfold unfortunately for Antonio, and on the 28th of March 1997, Antonio's bullet-riddled body would be dragged out of Wolf Lake. And in the decade that followed, petty violence would play out as more and more gangsters vied for control of the streets of Terratown. And if the rival gangs didn't get you, the police certainly would. As the years went by, slowly descendants of Jeff Fort would be taken off the street one by one, facing arrest after arrest, with his other son Wakita picked up for drug charges by the police in 1996, with reports around this time explaining that since Jeff Fort's lengthy incarceration in a supermax facility, the religious focus of the El Ruckin that he had started had fallen away, with his remaining descendants reclaiming the Black P-Stone identity and going to war with other famous Chicago gangs like the Gangster Disciples over control of the area. During these years, a nephew of Jeff Fort named Eric Gothero earned himself the nickname the Prince of Terratown, apparently establishing a huge open-air drug operation at 79th and Essex known as the Pow Wow Line, a scene which I imagine wasn't dissimilar to the fictional open-air drug market Amsterdam depicted in HBO's The Wire. But eventually, this $15,000 a day drug operation would indeed be taken down too in what the police described as Operation Terratown 2. Jeff Fort's nephew would be busted along with 18 other people in a raid that discovered an enormous shrine to Jeff Fort himself, along with 13 cars, 10 guns, 125 grams of cocaine, and a whopping 900 grams of heroin. And as
I ain't gonna lie, boy, them boys got that fucking weight. Them boys cutting up in Chicago, boy. I ain't gonna cap. You heard what them boys got pot with? That's tough.
result, the gangs on the streets of Terratown in the 2010s would be left without leadership, becoming a much more fractured collection of renegade P-Stone gang sets, slowly losing their connection to Jeff Fort, the Blackstone Rangers, or the heritage of politically motivated gangs that had once controlled the area. Teenage gangbangers would grow up, knowing they descended from P-Stones, but establishing new rules, new territories, and new disputes, with the young teenagers in the area giving very little thought to the religious, political, or social movements that Jeff Fort had at least tried to pioneer through the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But more interesting than that to me was that in the streets and blocks of Terratown were the next generation of young men growing up close to the cycle of violence and gang warfare that their elders had endured, with some taking part in the war, killing and being killed as part of a new generation of conflict in the streets of Terratown, while others would take the scenes that they had experienced and witnessed and channeling those experiences into music, making hit songs about the lifestyle that they'd grew up around, becoming successful musical artists and getting a once-in-a-lifetime shot to escape the cycle of violence and get out of the city with their lives intact. Despite 75th to 79th Streets being so dangerous and gang-infested that it's literally nicknamed Terratown, the area, particularly 79th Street, has spawned some of the biggest Chicago rappers who avoided gangs. You may be surprised to find out that one of the most successful musicians and entrepreneurs of our generation, Kanye West, grew up in a childhood home only minutes away from Terratown. And despite later in his career claiming to be affiliated with the Gangsta Disciples, Kanye actually had early lyrics where he discussed encountering black pea stones in the neighborhood and having to go by a nickname so they would leave him alone. And Kanye would even bring rap legend Jay-Z back to the area many years later. But when it comes to the most famous name in the rap game associated with the No Limit gang in Terratown, we're of course talking about G Herbo, formerly known as Lil Herb. Herbo would meet fellow No Limit drill legend Lil Bibby at a local youth center after school. Together, Herbo and Bibby would spark a friendship, eventually becoming collaborators and putting their block on the map as far as drill music is concerned. Lil Bibby made big moves in the music industry through both the booth and the boardroom, eventually partnering up with his brother G Money and starting the record label Grade A Productions, playing a big role in bringing top-tier talent like Juice WRLD and the Kid Laroi to the forefront of music. But away from the music and back to the streets, another famous name you might associate with No Limit is Cairo, an outspoken affiliate who will play a major part in the beef.
I ain't gonna cap, bro. Y'all remember that interview on No Limit Cairo did when he said, man, G Herbo don't do nothing for the hood. That nigga left the hood, he don't do nothing for his homies, bro. And he rapping about that shit and he not even in the hood. He not even putting no money in the homies' pockets, bro. How y'all feel about that, bro? Like, how y'all feel about him feeling like G Herbo supposed to take care of grown men? How y'all feel about that shit, bro? Y'all let me know about how y'all feel about that shit, because I looked at that shit like, bro, like, at the end of the day, nigga, you your own man, you know what I'm saying? That shit a partner that, I don't know y'all, well, fucking, I don't know y'all friendship, I don't know how tight that shit was, but man, at the end of the day, you're a grown man, bro. Like, niggas grown men, you feel me? You can't depend on another man to do nothing for you, to take care of you type shit, bro. Like, you gotta make your own way out here, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of niggas get that twisted, like, they get that fucked up. They think, cause, oh, you my partner, when you get on, you feel me? I gotta put you on, even for niggas that you ain't even fuck with, but y'all ran around the same circle. Niggas be thinking you owe them something type shit, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that, like, part in the comment section, bro. Like, real talk.
This story develops. And another name from the streets that you might know from the music is Mad Max, aka C Money, or Killer Chris. He's possibly the most active killer in the street side of this story, becoming infamous in both the streets and on the internet for allegedly being a fearless shooter who claimed the lives of numerous enemies. Now, as far as the streets goes, there were allegedly two main leaders of No Limit back in the early days. Rumored to be a direct relative of Blackstone Rangers founder Eugene Bull Hairston, G Bull was from 78th Street, one of two commanding members of No Limit, who apparently played a role in mentoring the likes of Lil Bibby, White Sean and G Money, with another gang leader by the name of G Gill, hailing from 79th Street, commanding another set of the younger generation of No Limit, mentoring the likes of G Mainsky, G Herbo, Jock, and Mad Max himself, who would post publicly on Instagram about coming up under G Gill. Other important names associated with the No Limit movement who you might hear mentioned in this story include Faro, Lil Wet, aka Wet 'em Up, and Crazy James. There's quite literally dozens of people who claim No Limit publicly, with some estimates of its membership online suggesting that the gang is 200 people strong. It would be difficult to identify and name every member here, and that's really not something I'm trying to do right now. But that's a selection of some of the most important names who you'll be hearing about over the course of this story. The fact that No Limit is such a large gang is perhaps the reason that the crew was able to survive such a long war with so many enemies. As in this story, there are three distinct feuds going on between No Limit and their allies and their enemies in different parts of the city. The three groups that No Limit and their allies are feuding with specifically include the Lakeside Gangster Disciples, some of whom go by KTS or Kill to Survive, Pocket Town, another group of gangster disciples, and Black Mob, a group descending from the original Black Pea Stones in the area. So let's start by taking a closer look at the Lakeside GDs, some of whom go by the terrifying nickname KTS or Kill to Survive. Lakeside are arguably No Limit's biggest opposition. They're a crew made up of gangster disciples and vice lords in a particular area of Terratown. South of Terratown is No Limit territory, with an overlapping area in the southeast known as Lakeside, hence the intense rivalry between these two groups. In fact, the nearby McDonald's, located on 2425 East 79th Street, has been the scene of much bloodshed and drama in this feud, but we'll get to that later. Some from this area and the nearby Pocket Town go by the nickname KTS or Kill to Survive, sometimes sometimes referred to as Cutthroat. The terrifying implications of those nicknames alone should be enough to give you an idea of just how deadly this feud can get. In fact, some KTS members even sport a large shoot-to-kill crosshair tattoo on their necks, a terrifying prospect which likely inspired fear into pretty much anyone these guys encountered, gang member or not. In fact, KTS members had local residents so terrified that there's examples from back in 2010 with locals posting lists of gang members to avoid on Facebook and telling others that their area is under attack. Associated with this group, you've got the likes of KTS Dre and KT.
Hey bro, ain't that same KTS Dre, KTS Vaughn? Is they brothers, bro? Like, I'm confused, but I know one of them just got out of jail, you feel me? And nigga got killed right outside the jailhouse, bro. I don't know what that young man did in the streets, bro, but he done pissed some people off, bro. If a nigga won't get you outside of jail, bro, that says something, bro. Like, as soon as you get out of jail, a nigga kill you, bro. Some motherfuckers be scared to even do anything around the jail, but man, I don't know, bro. Nigga, they got some creepy shit going on down there in Chicago, bro. I know one thing, bro. That would never be a place I have on my bucket list to visit before I don't want nothing to do with Chicago. I would never in my million years go to Chicago, not even on a fucking trip. I don't want nothing to do with that place, bro. You feel me?
Vaughn both feared hitters due to their family's gang ties, with their father Vinny apparently having a deep history of involvement in the local gangs. Vinny was apparently an OG gang member from the area who had clearly taught his sons the ways of the street from early. But in addition to being shooters, the likes of Vaughn and Dre were also prolific posters on social media, being seen in numerous clips online, driving through rival territories armed and looking for a response. Another significant Lakeside member who will be important later in this story is Posto, a local member who would sadly lose his life, with this incident representing yet another significant escalation in the war between these two areas. But before we get to that, there's actually another Lakeside member whose killing would represent one of the early triggers of this deadly war. That young man's name is Nutso, who was killed by another group close to No Limit in 2008. That group's name is the Muskegon Boys. The Muskegon Boys are a set of gangster disciples from Terratown. Originally going by the Muskegon Block Gangsters, they hail from 78th and Muskegon Avenue, just off of Exchange. This set was apparently pioneered by two locals, going by the street names of Doski and Whitebread. In the past, they may have been considered closer to the fellow gangster disciples in Lakeside, but events would unfold, driving these two GD sets apart and the Muskegon Boys and No Limit much closer together, with the alliance between these two crews famously being NLMB, or the No Limit Muskegon Boys, sometimes referred to with the backronym Never Leave My Brothers. Many of the younger members of No Limit and the Muskegon Boys would form close friendships, with several individuals playing a significant role as part of this story. People like Zale, Rock, Kobe, and Fazo. As mentioned previously, the Muskegon Boys and Lakeside had formerly been on good terms due to their shared GD heritage, but that would all change around 2008, when younger members of the Muskegon Boys would get their hands on firearms, ultimately leading to deadly outcomes between the crews. Eventually, a beloved member from Lakeside by the name of Nutso would be shot and killed. Nutso, real name Larry Pickens, was murdered on his porch at 7815 South Marquette Avenue in June 2008. This represented an early escalation between the Muskegon Boys and Lakeside, with the Muskegon Boys eventually forming that NLMB alliance with No Limit. But from here, things would get much more complicated. As I mentioned earlier, No Limit would be battling two other gang sets, in addition to their war with Lakeside. Playing a small part of this is a historical overlap between some members of Lakeside and Pocket Town. And to understand this, we've got to take a closer look at Pocket Town, another gang set who would battle No Limit fiercely for control of the streets of Chicago. Pocket Town is yet another gang with its heritage from the Black Pea Stones. This can be seen in graffiti all over the area depicting the 5-point star depicted in early Black Pea Stone folklore. This area apparently earned the name Pocket Town due to its triangular shape and is based towards the Greater Grand Crossing area, a short drive west of Terratown. Nearby Circon City is another older gang set with loose connections to No Limit. Gangs have been active in Pocket Town as far back as the 1980s. In fact, there's one kingpin from the area named Nate Hill, who became one of America's biggest drug traffickers, apparently forging close ties with the Black Pea Stones before eventually being taken down in a big bust. Now, according to comments on Reddit, the gangster disciples in Pocket Town in the 90s were somewhat organised, but fractures in the group throughout the 2000s would see individuals branching off, forming new alliances, and breaking free of the past as new feuds emerged between members from varying sets. For example, you've got the likes of Rio, hailing from Pocket Town, but also affiliated with KTS. One individual who played a role in early feuds related to Pocket Town goes by the name of Lil Pez, or Paris. He was murdered just age 16 in Grand Crossing in March 2008. being found with a gunshot wound to the head on the sidewalk of the 1300 block of East 72nd Street around 11 p.m. His sister would tell the news that she'd feared her brother had fallen in with local gangs, with it being believed that Lil Pez had formed links with gang members in both Lakeside and Pockettown, with it being believed that his killing marked a significant escalation in tension in the area. So by 2008, we have the likes of the Muskegon Boys and No Limit warring with the Lakeside GDs, or KTS, as well as former Peace Stones based in Pockettown. But there's just one more piece to this complicated puzzle, because there's yet one more significant group famous for being constantly at war with No Limit. A set of gangsters based in the north of Terratown, descending from the original Black Peace Stones, who go by the name of Black Mob.
What if you could get your music submitted to over 100 Spotify playlist curators and boost your chances of getting to...
In the north of Terratown, there's a territory controlled by a group called Black Mob, based on 74th to 75th and Phillips, only a few blocks north of 79th where No Limit call home. One of the most famous and feared names from Black Mob is Shooter Shells. Much like Mad Max, Shooter Shells had allegedly played a role in numerous killings as part of this feud, apparently cultivating a fearsome reputation in the streets. But we'll learn more about him later in the story. Black Mob is a set branching off from the original Peace Stones, descending from Jeff Fort, who claimed Terratown since the early 90s. It's said that over the years following the large busts on the original Peace Stone leadership that descended from Jeff Fort, Black Mob in the north would continue on the Peace Stone legacy, controlling the drug trade in the area. But as renegade Peace Stone sets like No Limit formed, for a period these newer sets would be expected to pay a tax to the original generation of Black Peace Stones, Black Mob in the north. Essentially, if these new younger No Limit gangsters wanted to sell drugs in Terratown, they would have to pay the OGs from Black Mob, and as you can probably imagine, that is where tension started. It's said that at some point in the 90s, former leader of No Limit, G Bull, was killed, though there's very little information online about that particular incident. But what we do know is that into the noughties, a new leadership figure for the No Limit troops emerged, a man known as Hell Rel, aka G Rel, or Rue Gotti, not to be confused with another Hell Rel from Lakeside, who we'll discuss later in this story. Up until this point, Black Mob and No Limit had been historically friendly, but soon a turf war would break out between these two factions. A No Limit member by the name of Vito had allegedly been selling drugs in Black Mob turf. He was ultimately attacked for not paying tax or showing respect to the elder Peace Stones controlling that area. Retaliation from No Limit would soon follow, and story has it that Vito would attempt to shoot up an enemy from Black Mob, unsuccessfully attempting to kill them with their family present. And this reckless act of disrespect would apparently spark the bitter war between Black Mob and No Limit. Eventually, on the 20th...
We got it, bro. Man, y'all want part 3, man. Y'all already know what the fuck poppin', man. Y'all tap on that real spitter gang shit, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comment section. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I'm whooping and weaving, bitch. I'm about to fall asleep in the chair and everything, bro. And we not about to have that in the classroom, you feel me? It's my job to keep my students woke, you know what I'm saying, and learn some of these classrooms, bro. Other than that, bro, class is dismissed. Y'all let me know if y'all want part 3 in the comment section, bro. We gonna tap on it, you feel me? I ain't gonna lie, bro. Y'all Chicago niggas, man. Y'all some hell of a niggas, man.
Come on out of there! Next time I'm gonna shoot you in the one that wink and not the one that stink. I'll beatbox your ass.
That's some double D, big titties on her shit, I know she really like that. Spitter gain a whole clique, when a nigga really cutting up. See you on war, how you gon' beef for you ain't got funds? Spitter gain a whole clique, my nigga live in it, that chain hanging to the floor.